Welcome to The Longer Game. If you're listening to a show about retail being reimagined. If you'd like to connect with The Longer Game, look for The Longer Game at thelongergame.com and on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn at The Longer Game. We're here to talk about retail, why it's changing, how it's changing, and what you can expect in the future. We're not trying to take ourselves too seriously, but we do want to know what that retail landscape is going to look like. I hope you enjoy your time listening to this podcast. We try to keep it as quick as possible because we don't want to waste your time, but we want to keep you informed. Thanks for tuning in. Now, here's the show. Welcome, everybody, to the Longer Game Podcast. This is the Longer Game Podcast because that's what the name is. If you want to know what we're about, we're talking about retail in general, but we like to bring things into focus and talk about things a little bit more specifically. So I have with me Damiano Raveenthiran, and he is the CEO of
Startup Slang.
Slang. I probably should have double checked what the name of your agency was before I hit record, but we're in it. So
Cool.
Startup Slang. I do like that. Nang. I like that name because startup is a very popular word right now.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't you just tell us a little bit more about where that name came from and
Sure.
what you do at Startup Slang.
I'd be happy to. Yeah. So, Startup Slang today is a full stack e-commerce agency from Canada. So we have offices in Toronto and Montreal, as well as Kingston, Ontario. And we basically help e-commerce merchants with everything from design and development of a high converting website all the way to marketing and content production as well. And the way that the company really started is so I'm an e-commerce specialist. I've been an e-commerce specialist for a while. Before I was an entrepreneur, I was just working as an e-commerce manager for a brand.
Okay.
And
So that's where you cut your chops at, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was literally the first person that they hired in that position, and I built a team of 17 under me.
Wow.
And so when I built the e-commerce department for that brand, I figured, I could do this again. And so Startup Slang today is very much, we market ourselves as the plug and play e-commerce department for brands. So I've kind of like taken that skill that I had learned at my full-time job, and I just built an agency around it. And the name, every time it kind of started because every time we went into a business, a lot of these businesses, we started working in the construction industry. So we're working with a lot of power tool retailers and distributors and things like that. And every time we would go
Not
into
like contractors, but like people that are selling products,
yeah,
e-commerce
people
products.
that are exactly, yeah. And every time we would go into one of these businesses, it's a very old industry. People are still used to doing things on paper and stuff. And so we would kind of bring our own lingo, which we started calling the startup slang. And
Okay.
we had to kind of just educate our customers on how to even talk about e-commerce. And that was back in 2015. And so started off back then, and little by little the name kind of stuck, and people loved it, and I bought the domain and ended up being pretty good. So we just kept it.
That's a really cool story. Now, I named my agency because I liked how it sounded, but my business, I think your story's better is where I'm getting. My legal business entity name is Matters of the Cart, and I started that when I started selling as a reseller back in 2010,
Mm-hmm.
and then transitioned into the agency side in 2016. Whole long story there, but I felt like, I need an update, and so I kept the cart because helping people on Amazon, it's all about the shopping cart, but there's so many applications for cart. The cart starts with retail. It starts with a brick and mortar. You are working on e-commerce sites that have a shopping cart that people want to sell product through, and Shopify has made it. Wait, do you handle anything else other than Shopify, any other platform?
Yeah, so today we work on Shopify, BigCommerce, and Magento.
Okay.
And we also do a bunch of like custom builds for clients that want to go down that route as well.
And so before places like Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce came along, all shopping carts were pretty much custom builds, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and some clients still decide to go down that route. Some clients prefer headless, right, where half of it is custom built, and then the back end is still using one of those platforms. It's a yeah, and some certain solutions, like we have a few clients in the marketplace space, and so they're coming to us to build marketplaces, and I don't really think that it's appropriate to build a marketplace on one of these platforms. Usually it's just better to have
Absolutely.
a completely custom solution for that.
Well, you know that the way that AWS started was that Amazon was trying to host all their data, and all the people that were helping them couldn't help them because they were so large. So they said, we're going to build our own tool. They built their own tool that is still working on the Amazon Marketplace side, and it's just called MWS, Marketplace Web Services. And they turned that into AWS, and now that's, billions of dollars of business. So
Yeah.
necessity often is the mother of invention. I hear it is the mother of invention. I don't know for a fact, but when things changed in my business, I had to decide, what am I going to do with my skill set. So went into the agency side of things. To get back to the e-commerce question or focus, so you work on different platforms. Some people are the people that you're going in and talking to. These retailers, or these, I would say, retail brands, they know that e-commerce is a thing. They know that e-commerce is, the wave of the future. I'm sure they're getting it shoved in their faces in the news, or potentially by even people in their company, but they don't even know. I mean, they don't even know some of the, most basic terminology that I might say to you, like an impression, or CTR, conversion rate, all this stuff. It's those are pretty basic e-commerce metrics, and you likely have some different lingo even from the design perspective, because for me, Amazon handles all of the, excuse me, from the development side, they handle all the developing. We don't need developers on our team, but that's a big part of your team, is developers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I mean, we really started off as a development agency first and foremost, and everything else kind of like grew out of that. And today, like it's pretty nice to be able to go into a business that has never done any sort of online sales. Those are my favorites, just because anything we do will be better than what they're doing right now. So there's
Absolutely.
practically no way we can fail. And it's yeah, no, it's for some of the businesses, it's been life changing. We've worked with power tool retailers that were making $1 million a year for decades, get them online, and all of a sudden they're $25 million companies, right? So
That's incredible.
it's that's kind of the power of online, right? Of online retail. Like I think a lot of merchants kind of know now because of COVID and stuff, and a lot of people have been forced into that, but it's not uncommon to see that now most of your sales come from online purchases, and it's only going to keep going that route. And now with cryptocurrencies and NFTs and all of that stuff, it's getting even more interesting with Web 3.0 coming to the e-commerce scene.
Where do you think cryptocurrency comes into play with retail? I mean, I know blockchain, a lot of people talk about cryptocurrency, and it's based off, blockchain technology. I feel
Hmm.
like cryptocurrency, I don't know where it's going to go next, but I feel like that really is just the start of what blockchain technology can do. I feel like it's probably got so many more, capabilities. It's like when we first started the internet, like, wow, our computers can talk to each other from across the room, and now we're doing commerce on that. But so I feel like this is even just the beginning. But where does cryptocurrency factor into e-commerce, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've started seeing a lot of interesting sort of use cases for it. Just when you think of just creating incentive layers on top of like experiences online, right? So for example, we have a merchant right now that we're working with, and they're coming out with a product, and it's a fitness product. And I don't want to like get into too much detail about it, but to give you an idea, imagine having a
It's the
fitness
Shake Weight
product.
2.0, right?
No, no, that's not.
I'm kidding.
But imagine having a fitness product that basically rewards you with a certain coin every time you go to the gym, right?
Ah,
So you're adding an incentive layer on top of any sort of experience that you want to create, any sort of app or e-commerce experience that you want to have your end user like go through. You can create an incentive for that, right? So some of the really interesting use cases that I'm seeing right now is people that want to launch marketplaces. kind of like Amazon, right? But how are they going to compete? Well, they can integrate something like Kin. Kin is a reward system using a cryptocurrency called Kin onto their marketplace, so that when people choose to shop on their marketplace, they're actually making this cryptocurrency that they can then turn into Ethereum, they can turn into Bitcoin, they can turn into normal dollars as well. And so you're creating an extra incentive for them to go there, and it's way better than Walgreen points or any
It's
other
a
reward
loyalty
system.
program, just reimagined.
Yeah, reimagined because it can be used in multiple ecosystems instead of just on one store and one ecosystem, right? So that's really, really interesting. There's a lot of merchants who are looking to launch some of their physical products with NFTs. We're seeing a lot of that in the luxury watch space. We're seeing that in the jewelry space as well. To kind of creating like unique collectibles out of like these pieces that people can buy and resell later on.
Okay.
So there's a lot of use cases for cryptocurrency, and I think we're only going to see more sort of as the years progress. And here at Startup Slang, we're actually very open to that. We have an entire training program for our developers to go through and learn to code in Solidity and be like really on top of their knowledge when it comes to crypto and blockchain development. And so we're investing
Is that a
heavily in
lot
that.
different than just typical like R, Python, whatever languages that you're using?
No, 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 it's not.
It's just another language.
Yeah, it's just another language. The only, I guess, the only obstacle is that schools don't really teach it yet. So because it hasn't reached that sort of level of training, it's really hard to find developers. So agencies like us, we have to basically create a
You
training
have to
program
teach them.
ourselves and teach them, right?
Schools
But
are still just starting to teach people, I think, about digital marketing.
yeah, 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 yeah,
I've
yeah, yeah.
actually started getting connected with some local universities and just being a part of career fairs because
Hmm.
the need for people that know and understand Amazon and basically can be account managers or strategists and help, have that relationship with a client, at least for us, it's hard to come by. And so we're either having to train or we're having to find someone from, potentially from another agency or someone that's a freelancer. And so
Hmm.
there's more of those, but finding someone that knows what they're doing, like that's not being taught in schools. And what's even more frustrating, I think, for me is knowing that these schools are not even letting these kids know like there's more opportunities than you think. We hear a lot about how people are coming out of school and they're not getting jobs, and I don't even need to go into that, but there's a whole field of new jobs being created right now, but it seems like the universities aren't even really connected to that, so they're not telling kids, hey, you could become a developer for e-commerce, you could become a developer for using blockchain technology, you could be an Amazon account manager. They don't know that. They're just thinking, okay, well, I have to go get a job at a big company, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. I think schools have been failing us, well, the several generations for generations now, and I think the important thing, and I'm about to have a kid, so I'm actually thinking about this like pretty often nowadays. But
Okay. Congratulations, by the way. First kid?
thank you. Yeah, first kid. Yeah,
Oh, awesome.
um, should
Are you gonna
happen
be
any day now.
surprised?
We'll see. Am I gonna
Are you
be
getting s
surprised?
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. I remember
Yeah.
my wife and I were surprised with my daughter, who's now
Hmm.
8, and the day was so fun because I mean, it was fun for me. I wasn't the one that was in labor, but my wife and I were both excited because we were thinking, "We get to meet whoever this person is." We don't know
Yeah.
really know anything about them, just that they are I mean, hopefully a human. So it was so cool finding out, like, it's a girl, like, just that whole process was cool. So I'm excited for you, man.
Right. Right. Yeah. No. Thanks. Thanks. It should happen literally any day. But that's the
But you're
reason why I'm
thinking
I'm
about
looking at
education, you're thinking
education.
about
Yeah.
school. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I think the biggest I was asking myself like where did school fail me? Because I was like a DNF student, like 100%. School was
Yeah,
not kind to me. I didn't like the experience at all. But it didn't mean I didn't have the skills like necessary. I've been coding since I was 12,
absolutely.
right? And like I've been kind of like developing my own skills on the side. And I think where school fails a lot of people is it doesn't teach you about that relationship between your skills and the market, and
Mm,
it doesn't really like allow you to understand that the skills that you develop in school or outside of school are things that you then use to actually do whatever it is that you want to do from an entrepreneurial perspective or
make
from a
money,
job or
anything.
whatever, right? Yeah.
Like, hey, here's how the economy works, but where do I plug into the economy?
Exactly. How can I actually understand where the market is going, and how can I actually plug my skills in there? And I think there's different ways of doing that. And the other thing is the whole grade system is really, really annoying. So now Elon Musk actually made his entire like school curriculum for his kids like public online. I forgot what the website is called, but
Does he homeschool
um,
his kids?
no, I think he has an actual school that he's
Oh,
built
okay. Oh,
according to
okay.
like values, and it's just super interesting stuff. It's like there's no grades or anything. You look at the interviews of some of these kids; they're like 11 years old. They're talking like 30-year-old engineers. It's insane,
Do you
and
think they're
like
being
solving
robbed of some of their
problems.
childhood, or they're just more informed?
Well,
Not
I
that those
think
two things are mutually, exclusive of each other.
well, here's the thing. I remember when I was a kid, and I had a really big sort of bend towards entrepreneurship, but because I had never been exposed to that until I was like 23 or 24,
Hmm.
it was never like an option for me. I never thought that I could actually be an entrepreneur, right? And I think that kids that probably go through like a program like that, they're just exposed to more and exposed to more problems and more problem solving, and then over time you end up. I don't think they're getting robbed of anything. I think over time they
Sure.
just end up learning how to solve problems at a much higher rate
That's actually
than
how
school, right?
I'm realizing, like, as time goes on, wow, I actually lent more towards this entrepreneurial side. Like, when I was probably, I'd say 14, I wanted to buy a skateboard. I sucked at skateboarding, and I
Right.
had gotten a used one from a friend, but I'm like, I want to buy my own. So I started mowing lawns and just going out to people in my neighborhood, creating flyers, doing all that typical stuff. I didn't have to be doing that at 14. I mean, I wasn't getting an allowance.
Yeah.
So, the money had to come from somewhere. I remember being in middle school, and there would be like these like merchant weeks, and I remember creating those really big spiky fingers that were made out of paper, like sets of
Right.
those, and selling them and really loving that. And I
You're a
have
little
this.
hustler.
Yeah, I was a little, a little hustler, but I wasn't raised in an entrepreneurial family.
Mhm.
My dad was a biochemist who then became a physician. My mom was an educator, so more traditional, I'd say, career paths, and they were super supportive of whatever I wanted to do, but I didn't know really until I saw a friend of mine who was building an online business and seeing, oh wow, like, you're doing that, and I just hated the job that I was at. So I was like, oh, I want to do that. That sounds better. And so I learned, and so I became an entrepreneur to get out of a job that I hated, but I've stayed an entrepreneur for lot many for many more reasons than what I became one. And one of them is I'm able to create this path of what direction do I want to go, and I get to choose, do I want to have a negative impact, do I want to have a positive impact? Some people aren't consciously choosing that. They're just, focusing on goals, and whatever happens happens. But yeah, I mean, there are now entrepreneurship classes that are being taught at universities here in the
Mhm.
States, but I think the best thing, I think it's cool that it's being taught, but one of the best things you can do is just like go shadow an entrepreneur for like a summer and see what is it that they're doing. What is the, because especially as you're building a company, it's not just, all right, I am the ops director and I handle operations. It's like, oh, I'm also part of the sales and the marketing and administrative, and I'm helping create processes and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, dude, that's it's crazy. It's crazy that they're teaching entrepreneurship classes now in university, and like I found it pretty ironic at some point because I got a like a lot of people might not know this, but like I was so bad in school, I went to college and I crawled to the finish line, and then when I got to the finish line, I finished all my courses, and I was like, "Can I have my degree?" And you know what they said? They said that my grades were too low. So I literally failed college. Like for even though I did all my courses, my grades
Oh
were too
my
low.
gosh.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It was like a slap in the face. And I hated the whole experience. I crawled
Oh,
my
I
way there.
imagine you would.
And the crazy part is now, like literally last month, I got an email from the person that teaches the entrepreneurship course at my local university where I failed, and they want me to go in and give a lecture now.
Oh, that's
So it's
so,
pretty,
but what a
it's pretty,
great story.
it's
It
pretty,
must have felt
it's pretty
terrible at the
ironic.
time, but
Yeah.
that's super ironic. But uh, I mean, the way that I look at things, I believe that God has a purpose for every single thing in our lives, but it's very hard. And I know some people don't believe in that. Some people don't believe in, like, we were talking about Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson and their
Mhm.
podcast being very philosophical. And I know that Sam Harris doesn't believe in um, freedom, free will, whatever.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
the whole other subject to get into. But, I think we experience things at the time and they hurt a lot, but we actually learn a lot from them. And when this is came around now, I imagine that you've developed enough to not say, "No, screw you guys. I don't want to do anything with you." Blah 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 blah. You're probably like, "Yeah, this is actually really cool, and what a cool story that I get to say, hey guys, entrepreneurship can be for lots of people. I was sitting in your seat and I failed college."
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And and I think it's not the first time that I'm doing a lecture, so it's just ironic that it's the university where I didn't make it. But yeah, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think a lot of people have this misconceptions that you have to go to school to become an
Hmm.
entrepreneur. A lot of people get MBAs. I get people coming to my interviews for candidates and stuff, and they have MBAs, and like
Yeah,
it's like so much education. But in most cases, there's nothing like experience, right? There's nothing like
amen.
feeling the highs and the highest highs and the lowest lows of
Woo!
entrepreneurship,
That's
right?
right, man. You gotta
Yeah,
experience it, and I often think people think because I'm more educated, I'm gonna make more money, and a lot of times
it's the
the w
opposite.
yeah, it's the opposite. Well, but also if you think about the investment that you're putting in,
Yeah.
but you also have to ask for more money. And so as
Hmm.
an entrepreneur, you have to create a more valuable service or sell more products, whatever the case might be. If
Hmm.
you're in a company, you have to ask for more money and say, "Here's why I'm worth it," and explain it to people. But I think a lot of people, I'm making a big assumption here, but my guess is they're getting degrees so that they can hopefully, grow and earn more and have higher up roles, but it doesn't necessarily teach you that. Now, school I think is great for some people. I did well in high school. My first 2 years of college, I thought I could just like squeeze by. So I failed Greek mythology, and then I did got a literal F, and then took a grade replacement. And it was at the University of Cincinnati here where I live, and I got a D. So I was like, all right, well, at least it's not an F. I got a D. And I'm like, Hercules and Heracles and all these guys' names, man, they sound so familiar. But anyway, it's cool to know that things have come full circle for you. One of the things I wanted to talk about when it comes to e-commerce, and we're talking about this disconnect between what's actually happening in the economy and what
Hmm.
people know. And so you've got these new young minds that are coming out of universities that don't actually know what the options or the possibilities are. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got these people who have been in industries for years, sometimes even 100 years in this specific industry. I don't know how long construction tools have been around, at least electric tools, maybe 40, 50 years. Honestly, I don't know, but they've been
I
in
mean,
business
yeah.
for they've
Some of
been in
them have been
business
in
for a
business
while,
for, yeah, 60 years, 70
but
years.
they don't even know what's possible in the economy, and they're out there. And so you're having to go in and talk to these brands and
Yeah.
teach them this new lingo, this new startup slang. Here's what this means. And not only do you have to teach them what it means, you have to explain to them why that's important, why they should even care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, 100%. And now I think with the marketing landscape sort of changing a lot over the last few years, like I think um, a lot of like ad platforms out there like Facebook ads and Google ads are kind of letting a lot of brands down. There's a real shift towards content, and so here at Startup Slang, we invested pretty heavily in our content team. So we have entire teams of like videographers and photographers, and people like really good graphic designers to make content for our clients. And in a lot of cases, it really just starts there, right? You have a brand. You're maybe doing okay with a brick and mortar store. You're maybe selling on Amazon here and there, but you want to take it to the next level and you don't know how. We usually start with content, just creating a ton of really good content, and then creating a really good conversion experience where we can drive traffic and get you more sales, hopefully. And
It's
that.
crazy that you say that because being on ads is the way that you get traffic to people,
Mhm.
to a website. And like for me, when I talk about Amazon, I say, the strategy is simple. It's get good real estate. So, beautify the real estate, which is your product listing, and then send traffic to it. That's the
Mhm.
advertising piece. The way you used to do things on Amazon 5, 6, 7 years ago, there was no ad platform. So it literally was, have the most SEO relevant product and try to have the best photos. And it was photos on a white background, really bad, maybe Photoshop stuff. even if you go right now and look at big brands, they might have one image of their product, and they're
Yeah.
totally relying on brand strength and the brand name. They're not necessarily gaining more market share, but they're selling. They could even be selling $1 million dollars a year or something, and it's not really impacting their top line because they're looking at things in billions.
Hmm.
But we started to invest this year a lot more heavily in really good content, and the difference that it makes. A lot of people don't. A lot of people think, well, if I can, as long as I can see the product, it's not. I don't need to see someone using it. I don't need to see. I just need to know more about the product. And what people don't realize is that we're very visual people. I mean, I think people realize that we're very visual people,
Hmm.
but we're so visual that when it comes to e-commerce, we need to still have somewhat of a tactile experience like in the store. And one of the case studies, I guess you could say, that I use for this is there was a company that was doing a lot of 360 photography on Amazon, doing it for Walmart too, but allowing people to view a product, all the way around.
Yeah.
And they worked with a bug spray company. Why would you need to see bug spray in 360? Like, you see the can, you know
Right.
what's in it, you know what it does, and you want to know, does it have these ingredients? Is it effective? They saw,
Yeah.
when they put a 360-degree photo up, they saw a 10% increase in conversion rate.
Wow.
10%. That's ridiculous. And it's bug spray. But that tells me, and I think it should tell a lot of people, that people still want the experience. I don't think brick and mortar is ever going to go away.
Yeah.
It's still going to be there. E-commerce is growing as a part of total retail. But like you said, you're not just curating, okay, we got the best path to purchase and all this stuff, but you're creating an experience for people when you build them these sites. You're, UX or UI, um, and user interface is basically what I'm saying for people who maybe don't know, but it's, what is the customer experience like? That's even kind of a newer field, right? What would you say, like past decade, where people are really
Yeah.
starting to say
Absolutely.
UX, UI?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I would say, yeah, 7 to 10 years for sure. One of the things that I don't know how people are still like amazed by this, but when we build a store, we'll usually follow best practices in terms of the UX and the UI.
Hmm.
But the point of it is that we set up all of the tracking necessary for you to really see the user behavior and really see how people are using the store. And then we kind of help our merchants on a regular basis really look at like how their customers are using the store, and we can find friction points, drop off points, and we even go as far as doing like user interviews and all sorts of stuff to figure out the best
Oh, wow.
possible
You'll reach out
experience.
to customers.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. We have an
That's
entire team
awesome.
doing that. We also offer this service called the I think we're one of the only agencies that offered, but it's called the abandoned checkout booster. And so whenever someone abandons their checkout, we actually grab their phone number and we give them a call and we try to figure out why. And in some cases, they just got distracted, and
Sure.
at that point we have the opportunity to just upsell them or get them to complete the transaction. But in other cases, they legit couldn't figure out how to do it, right? Like it happens
Mhm.
sometimes, right? Like maybe
And you don't know
sometimes
that
they're
because you're on the
yeah,
back and you're like, "Oh, I'm figuring all this stuff out. This is so cool," but you're
yeah.
not getting the actual user experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So by setting up all of that tracking and gathering all of that data, that's how you make it better over time, and that's how you really increase your conversion over time. And I think there's a lot of value in Shopify and other platforms that allow people to have full control over their front end and
Oh,
what their website is
absolutely.
going to look like, right?
But you have to test that
Hundred
user
percent.
experience. You have to know what the consumer is going through. I'll say this, when it came to onboarding clients, I had someone come in and audit that process because I
Hmm.
didn't know what it looked like. I know we had some inefficiencies on our side,
Hmm.
and we found a ton of stuff that we got to fix and change, and it made onboarding so much more simple.
Hmm.
And then I even saw, when we would onboard people, there was like this delay while they were, filling out some information, and so we had to flip some stuff so that there was engagement right away. And then we said, hey, we need you to do some work. We need you to give us this information while we go and do some other stuff. But it was understanding the user experience, and I actually even had someone go and do interviews with prospects that we lost, with current clients, and say, like, why did you choose Cartology? Why didn't you choose Cartology? What were you thinking? Because I could be talking about sales all day, like we're going to grow you, we're going to grow you. But if people are coming to us and saying, we really are focused on profitability, well, then I should
Hmm.
really be focusing my message towards profitability. If someone's coming to the cart and they're saying, I really want to know that, you have my back when it comes to a return, then maybe that's something that needs to be shown once it's in the cart, or, very prominently on the page, something like that. And that's what you're helping people with, is helping them to better understand the user experience so that they can actually not just be online, but so that they can be successful and convert or get sales.
No, well, yeah, yeah, 100%. And there's certain websites that we've worked with merchants that have known this for years. So we work with merchants that have been doing conversion rate optimization for the last 7 years, and so we've actually seen like all of the trends, what has been working, what hasn't. And then one of the things that's the most I guess like surprising for me at least is in the last couple of years we've been helping a lot of merchants with international expansions, and so we have merchants in North America launching to Europe, we have some in Europe launching to maybe some in some countries in the Gulf region, or even
So
North
a whole new
American.
website for
Yeah.
those regions.
and
Okay.
and then and then you'll kind of notice that like people in those specific regions are using the website differently, right?
Mhm.
And so the experience has to be different. A lot of the shipping stuff is like not the same in some
Mhm.
places, so you kind of need to like take all of that into account. And here at Startups Line, we're really specializing in that. So we're specializing in international expansion, helping merchants launch into new regions, and doing that successfully through partnerships, and a lot of partners in different regions. Yeah, and it's just been like super surprising to see that people in other parts of the world use different way use websites in different ways.
One of the technologies when I was running my own site that really blew my mind was Kissmetrics and seeing heat maps. I don't
Hmm.
even know if Kissmetrics is like relevant anymore, but seeing a heat map of how people are interacting with the site, knowing, okay, they're not even scrolling down this far. I mean, that's all data I know that Amazon has, but that they're doing on their site that they're not necessarily sharing. But seeing on my own website was crazy to me. It was like, oh wow, people like this, people don't like this, and so actually being able to get into the customer perspective was totally worth whatever the cost was.
Yeah, 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 100%. And like I said, right now, uh, you have like companies like Facebook, right, or Meta, that are going to
Yeah.
completely revolutionize what the user experience on an e-commerce store, or just like when people purchase online, is going to look like, right? And so I think over the next 5 years, we're going to start seeing a lot of variations of like new experiences that we can create for our merchants. And that's also why it's important for merchants to kind of take a lot of that into account, right? Amazon right now is still not doing anything with cryptocurrency, as far as I know,
Yeah, they're
right?
not.
So it's yeah, it's a whole
It'll probably
untapped
take a
market.
while for them to jump on board. I mean, there's some things that
Mm.
they're pioneering in, like logistics, but other things they kind of shy away from. Like CBD, you can't sell CBD on their site, which I get, because even if it's legal, um, even if
It's a
it's
gray area, I
potentially,
guess.
yeah, it's a gray area, and it's still not taken off of the Schedule 1 narcotics list. So, like, technically,
Right.
it's federally illegal. It's just all this. There's all this crazy stuff, and so I'm sure they're like, "Yep, we're not getting our hands in that at all."
Yeah, that's crazy.
Damiano, for merchants out there who know, man, e-commerce is, I have to do something.
Hmm.
But I don't know. And by the way, I agree with you. The people that don't even haven't even started anything, it's hard to go down.
Yeah.
Like, you're basically only going up from there. There's
Hmm.
a period of understanding. But one of the things about people who haven't even been there yet is they're not putting on airs of, oh yeah, we know this, we know this, we know this. There's nothing wrong
Hmm.
with not knowing something and getting help. I get help. I'm not a salesperson. It's not my forte. So I hired a sales coach to help me to be better at talking about what it is that I do, and focusing on the the client.
Hmm.
So those people that know a little can actually be kind of a hindrance, because they don't allow you to come in and do your thing, and they want to control it, when in reality you're like, look, we have your brand's best interest in mind. We want to help you. Anyway, I digress. If someone is wanting, a retailer, excuse me, a brand is saying, I know we need to get on e-commerce. I don't know where to start. Where would you direct them?
So usually the way that I look at it is there's three main pillars of a successful e-commerce experience that you have to think about. There's product and the entire experience with the product. What does the fulfillment look like? How long does the shipping take? Packaging, things like that. It's pretty important. Then you have content, which is, how are people going to interact online with your product? Photography, videography, graphic design, all that stuff. And then finally you have the conversion. So what we'll usually do with a merchant that's brand new to e-commerce is we'll usually try to go through those three steps, and figure out sort of like where they are right now. If they don't have anything online yet at all, we'll make sure that the product is just perfect. We'll work on the logistics. We'll work on the fulfillment, the packaging, like all of that stuff that they need. If they have like specific requirements for shipping, it happens in certain industries. We're gonna
Sure.
need to figure all that stuff out, then create the content, and then go over to actually building a website that can convert. We found that merchants that kind of use this framework when launching a product are way more successful than those who are just trying to do it all at once. And so we kind of like will follow that with some of our merchants, and some merchants are going to be earlier than others. We have some that just have an idea. Hey, they want to launch a product. They have no clue how to even
Yeah.
create the product, and so we'll put them in touch with our network of sourcing agents in places like China or Turkey.
Yep.
Find some really good products and some really good samples, and
Product
they're
development person or
yeah.
package design, something like that.
Exactly, yeah, and help them
Yep.
develop the product all the way to launch, right? So we can start at the very beginning. That's why our name is Startup Slang. It's in the name. But that being said, we have worked with lots of Fortune 500 companies as well. We work with companies like Dyson and Panasonic, Amnesty International, and the list kind of goes on. And so,
Everybody needs help with e-commerce because,
yeah,
like we said, the people that are just starting don't know, but the people that have been in business for a while don't know. It's only some of the people that have been in the middle that have been, kind of pioneering stuff that actually know. So,
yeah,
um,
exactly, exactly.
you
And
are. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm just gonna add one more thing, and then the other thing is, for these bigger enterprise level companies, you know, one of the things that I notice is people change jobs all the time nowadays, right?
Hmm.
So it's really hard to find the type of talent that you need that really knows e-commerce. And when you come to an agency like us, like we have the advantage of having worked with over 2,000 brands in the
Hmm.
last few years, and so we've seen what works and what doesn't work. Like we've spoken to a lot of them. We've seen them fail, we've seen them succeed, and
Hmm.
so that expertise is not something that you can just find like very easily out there. And so it's you do in some cases absolutely need an e-commerce agency to help you accelerate your growth as an enterprise
You
brand.
have such a cool vibe about you. I need to meet you in person. You're like,
We'll
yeah,
do
man,
it,
of
man.
course, this is this, and yeah, and like just very knowledgeable dude. So thanks for coming on the podcast. If people want to find you, where should they look? Would they look at Comic Con? Would they look at your local university hiding behind a professor's door, getting ready to scare them? Like, where are you gonna where should people go if they want to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our website is the number one place where they can find us. And so startupslang.com.
Okay.
There's a very cool little chat bot there that can help direct you. And
Ah,
yeah, you can also find me on Twitter at Damiano R. Usually they're talking about cryptocurrencies and NFTs and the future of
okay.
e-commerce. And so, yeah, those would be the two main channels.
Cool. Well, you heard it here, people. Damiano is a pioneer in cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. There's going to be some changes coming up, uh, next 5 years. So be on the lookout for that. Longer Game's all about retail, and e-commerce is a big part of retail. It's growing. It grew a lot during the pandemic, and it's not slowing down. We're seeing numbers at least stay the same as when you're looking at total retail sales. So if you're not on e-commerce and you want to get involved in starting e-commerce, you want to build your own site, go to startupslang.com and find out more and just talk to Damiano and his team. It sounds like they'll be able to help you. That's it, people. The end of the show is here. Goodbye.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for coming on, man.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to The Longer Game. We genuinely appreciate your time. And if you want to connect with us, please reach out to thelongergame.com. You can fill out a contact request form there. You can also find us on majority of the social media platforms, except for Twitter. That's the only one that we're not really on. This show is brought to you by my agency, Cartology, where we're helping brands accelerate growth and become profitable on Amazon. If you'd like to know more, go to thinkcartology.com, fill out a contact form, and we'll get on the phone. That's what it's all about, connecting with you and building a relationship. This show is also brought to you by Arch DevOps. They're the ones that are helping make all the logistics of this podcast happen. We are so thankful for them. If you want to get your podcast up and running and you want to automate as many things as possible, go to archdevops.com. That's ARCHDEVOPS.com and reach out to them. They can be super, super helpful. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your day and be blessed.